Hey y'all, welcome to Bird's World. You are joining us with Bird Talk, and with us today we have the lovely Miss Serita Love.
Hey,
I,
so you're probably getting feedback. We were having some behind the scenes technical difficulties, so I'm still on my phone connected to you. So I'm
oh,
going off right now.
okay. Look, we are working this. I believe in full transparency. Things happen. We're what 4 months into we're past 4 months and 4 months into
Yeah.
figuring out what the virtual world looks like, and still trying to work it out. I still find myself logging into Zoom calls on mute and saying hi to everybody and trying to
Oh my
figure out
God.
why it's not working. Just
It's a process to say the least.
it
It is.
really is. It really is. So thank you so much for joining me today. I am super excited. Before we kind of officially kick off, just to give y'all a little bit about Serita. So I met you almost a year ago.
Yeah.
About
Yeah.
almost a year ago, we frequent a co-working space together, and I saw Serita facilitate a panel conversation. And when I tell you, dynamic is not the word that you could use for this individual. Like, just super powerful, knows how to control a room. I was thoroughly impressed with the way in which, like, you just present yourself and you fully give yourself to your audiences. So had to figure out a way to connect. So we are
My
here.
God.
I
And
am.
we've been rocking and rolling ever since. So it
We
is beyond a pleasure. And I've had the opportunity to learn so much about you in so many phenomenal ways. And I feel like I'm still only etching the surface. So it's to say it's beyond a pleasure to be in this space with you is an understatement. So I'm just most ecstatic about what's happening in real time right now, which is what we are here
Which is
for.
what we can talk about.
So,
So that was a great segue. So before we kick off the conversation, I would love to share with y'all a little something. So as you all probably know, I am in the KC Fringe Festival this year that kicked off July 12th and is going until July 26th. And with this festival, I've had the pleasure of putting together a show for you all that I actually did last year for the St. Louis Fringe Festival. And at that festival, won the National Artist of the Year award, which just kind of set me on this path. And so what I would love to do with you all right now is to share the trailer for the show, and then we're going to go ahead and jump right in.
let's do it.
Feel free, folks who are watching, if you have comments, questions, please make sure you are staying interactive within the chat box. I see you all. I will recognize you all. We in this together. So here we are right now. Here is the trailer for Inheritance, the stories we carry. For the club I didn't ask to be invited to, but found to be home. For the theater department that never had an all-black cast until 2009. For my tears acknowledged and shape-shifted into productions. For the blue lights, black girls. For the nude, anything I was supposed to wear. For the comb too fine to untangle me. For the smoke alarms in Murder Hall when my hair rejected flat irons. For the time a volcano erupted from my mouth. For the stories I was forced to digest without entry. For the television-soiled fingerprints of the Atlantic. For my tongue twisting round Columbus. For the rainbow buried underneath Chicago's smog. For my transformation, my humanization, my refuge. For Byrd. Oh, every time I see that, there's a tear that, like,
Every time I hear it, I feel it.
Oh, it's playing again. Hold on. Yes, it's every like this trailer, this whole project really highlights how much people believe in you when you like ask for help. Shout out to Kyle Niemer and Mallory Raven Allen Backstrom, whose birthday is today.
Happy birthday!
They came through. They came through, and I'm super great. Like I'm getting like emotional just thinking about it. It encapsulates everything I wanted. So
Well, one of the key things is you have a great reason to be emotional because we're in the final stretch of this has been since July the 12th?
the 12th, yeah.
This is kicked off July the 12th. Can you give like your hummingbirds more insight on, KC Fringe? Like this is significant on a very grand scale. Can you highlight like why this is super important that you're even on this platform to A, showcase your project, but B, just be featured as a woman of color in the US in Chicago?
Yeah.
Can you give us some insight on that?
Definitely. So for folks who don't know much about Fringe festivals, they actually started in Edinburgh. And it was a way to kind of counteract the narrative that was happening within the festivals that were happening there. There were folks that wanted to be a part of the festival, but they thought that their work was too edgy. And so they wanted it to be in a specific line of work. And folks are like, no, this is what art is. You challenge what everything is. Like you were there to help their conversations. And so during one of the festivals that was happening there, they decided to create the Fringe Festival, which is exactly what it sounds like. Fringe, you're on the edge, you are testing the limits. And they did it the exact same time that the other festival was happening. And it was a way to like get people moving, get them going. And so people started to adopt this model across the country and internationally. And there are, I don't even know how many there are. My introduction to the Fringe was last year at St. Louis, and I hadn't heard of them before. And it's like the most amazing opportunity to get new work out there, to get the work that you're trying to test out into the world. And I took my first dive. I leaped.
Took a leap. She took a leap, you guys.
The English language. I took a leap and prayed that the net would appear when I did that. And it really did. Like I took a show that I was starting to work on in 2016 and really polished it for this festival. And St. Louis was extremely welcoming to me and my show. And the production team there, they're just some of the most amazing people I've ever met. I was struggling with sound, and I was like, "What's the setup?" They were like, "We are here for you." So that experience, just in itself, was something that I will forever cherish, and it launched what I've always wanted to do with my work in a way that I couldn't have imagined. And then was able to be awarded the National Artist of the Year award for something that I've been working so hard on. Was an amazing acknowledgement, and to be welcomed back into that space this year as their national headliner is huge. COVID, on the other hand, another little monkey plans, and a lot of folks, depending on their resources, might not have had the opportunity to be a part of the Fringe in this way because now it's virtual. Yeah. And this is why I'm super thankful for the support that I have, because it could have easily been, I can't do it now.
And if it weren't virtual, Heather, where would it have taken place this year?
So for this particular one, it would have been in Kansas City, Missouri.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So one thing that I have read and reread to myself, something I really want to highlight to give people more insight on what inheritance is. Inheritance, the stories we carry is this description. So I'm looking at the description right now, and I just have to say it how I see it. And as a moderator, I just want to read it out loud so people can like really understand what this piece is about. And the fact that the runtime is 39 minutes. Inheritance, the stories we carry, is an award-winning piece illuminating its recipients, wink, wink, you guys, none other than Heather Byrd, her quest for liberation. Ever wonder why a Black woman raises her voice? Dating back to 1526, it has been a daily battle for her to love, to survive, to breathe. Her tears have ripples filled with the weight of isolation, invisibility, and a nagging feeling of missing something she didn't even know existed. Her body is forever ruminating in a wave of magic, agony, and exhaustion. This is her refuge. Whoa. Like, whoa. So speaking of testing limits, what limits did you test in creating something like this? I'm sure there are so many different ways. How can you conceptualize and condense what you've created to less than an hour?
Yeah. I mean, the first, I'm hearing like hurdle challenge that I came across. Like, it was definitely me stepping out on my own. Up until that point, I had been a part of a collective that used to perform together. So there was at least one other person by my side, if not 5 other people. And then there was a team, and then you already had location. And so this was really me stepping out on my own and saying, I'm owning my stories. Here I am. Let's go. And so like stepping into my own was extremely powerful. Also figuring out the right stories to tell and in what order and how to best engage the audience. I'm all about having conversations with the audience as I'm performing. I want to make sure that you are in this journey with me. And so how can I best do that? And so even within the show, there are 14 pieces that I do in the show, but there's also opportunities for dialogue that would normally take place if we were in person.
Yeah.
But there's backstory. There is a little bit more explanation. There are things that people can really hook, find ways to hook or find themselves in the stories that I'm telling, and find more ways to like empathize and inquire more. Like sometimes poetry, for some people, they might not know everything that's going on within there. I find those ways to make those connections with people.
Oh my gosh. So 14 pieces, is there any significance to the number 14, or that's just what it got narrowed down to? Because I'm a numbers. I'm always like finding meaning in numbers, but any significance about 14?
There is. And it was an accident. I did not originally anticipate having 14 pieces. So 14 has been a number. So I also play sports. Play volleyball, basketball, softball, and my number throughout high school was 14. My number in certain areas was also 14, but if it wasn't 14, it was a multiple of 7. So I've had the number 14, 21, and 42 within my lifetime of playing sports. There's something about it that I gravitate towards that.
I didn't know that. Like that was a random inquiry, but I'm like, I wonder, because 15 is like that safe number, but I'm just like, I wonder 14 if there's a reason, why the number is 14.
14 has just always been a number for me, and I don't know where it came from or how I received it, but it was meant for me in some way, and I'm like, okay, I'm listening. Yes, what do you have?
Wow. So tell me this, in the spirit of 14 pieces being in this project, what can someone anticipate as far as the experience of inheritance, the stories we carry? I'm sure there's a mix. I'm sure there are so many,
There are so many things. Authenticity is one of the words that is something I carry with me always. But it is authentic from beginning to end. I talk about a world, at the beginning, I talk about a world in which lives that were being carried from Africa and stolen from Africa to the United States in particular, but the Atlantic slave trade went to various different places. And I wanted to reimagine a world in which there was a happier ending. And so it opens up with a piece called Myafa to Mami Wata, and that is where the enslaved folks were that were either voluntarily jumped overboard or were thrown overboard turn into mermaids and were saved. And then there's this like family reunion that happens at the end. But since that's not our world, where do we enter into? We enter in at Ellis Island, and we kind of take this journey together, where I talk about what it's like to be a Black woman, what it's like to be a Black woman in this society that doesn't necessarily see us as human beings, and how that affects us. The lack of representation. I struggled with my hair when I was a kid. I did not understand what my hair didn't do what my counterparts did. And I used to get so frustrated. So we talk about hair journey, talk about names. Names are huge. People's names carry weight. And my name, as you all know, my name's Heather. I go by Byrd, but I often ask the question, like, why was I named Heather? Was that fate? You know, people name their children based on whether or not they can get a job. And within
Heather is safe. Heather is such a neutralized name. It's like you don't know. You don't know until you learn or you do your research and you're like, wow, oh, okay, here she is. Well,
surprise.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I'm not who they think is going to show up.
No, but that's a whole other conversation for another day. But that conversation needs to be had, like, to the point with hair. You know, you and I, we had the hair talk before we came on here today, and I haven't worn, braids since I was 17 years old because I was always in corporate, and it was just something I was really just super self-conscious about. I didn't want my hair to be the focus. So fortunately, I would just try to show up with looks that were corporate looks. But the fact that that's a thing is bothersome, to say the least. Like, it was freeing to be like, oh my gosh, I can, even though I could have done it. I could have gotten plaits and wore plaits to the back in corporate, but I think I would have been treated differently. And I didn't want what came with that. So just like the name Heather, I played in certain hairstyles and just said, you know what? I think I made it more of a big deal than internally. Internally, I wanted to be free, but I chose to play it safe, just for the sake of.
Yeah, there's so much that we internalize that we don't even realize that we're internalizing because of the images that we're receiving, because of the messages that we receive. Yeah, so that's very, very real. By the way, you look cute in braids.
It's so low maintenance. Now I see a week or 2 or 3 in the life of Heather Byrd. Like, you switch it up so many amazing ways. You can go from elegant to relaxed to casual to like whatever you want. That has to be like the bird gets to be free with her hair.
Yes.
Like, I think I'll be doing this for a very long time. I'm going to be switching it up and just getting more in touch with like just the meaning of it, because I recently traveled, for a few days, and it wasn't just the fact that, it was braids. It was a certain type of braid, like there's stitch braids, which like that's an art, in itself. But back to the point of your beginning, mermaids, the family coming together in the end. What's the sweet spot, in inheritance? Like, what's that middle, because I'm sure as you've developed this piece, there was a lot of scrambling and unscrambling to determine what needed to not necessarily plateau, but what had to be like that peak moment. Is there something that you can give us without saying too much? Because I'm watching it tonight and I'm really looking forward to it.
I would say there is definitely a peak point with the conversation that we're having now, but the peak point would be microaggressions, and how microaggressions have an effect within our bodies that we don't even understand at a young age. There's a story that I tell within Inheritance where I was in 4th grade and some things happened where I couldn't articulate what was happening. And because you can't articulate, sometimes people don't listen, or they're not willing to help advocate for you to find out what the real reason is for your actions. And so I would definitely say that is the peak point of Inheritance. And it's something that I didn't even learn how to articulate until I was in college. And then I didn't even write the piece until about 20 years later, because I replayed it in my mind, but I could not figure out why I did what I did. And I was like, oh, there's a piece of me that is, I believe in, how can I put this? I believe in my body telling a story of a life that I didn't necessarily live, but lived within my blood. So my ancestry line, my relative line. And there are stories that are told that just live within our bodies. There's that rumble that lives there, and you're like, why is this here? Why doesn't this feel right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you look at your entire career, I think there's a ton of significance in, where certain things began in high school to how you evolved in college to where you are now. Why this particular story and why now?
What, this story as an inheritance, or
Yes.
yes. Why? Well, the why now, it's loaded. The why now is so, it's so needed in a way. It's always been needed. I always believe in sharing stories so that conversations can take place and people can see themselves in storytelling, to build community. Now, we are 2020 is throwing all sorts of wrenches and questions and really opening up the opportunity for people to listen. And even though I did this show last year, it feels like now is a time where people are listening more than they have. And so how can I help build this relationship with folks to have them feel comfortable to ask questions they wouldn't normally ask? Or
antennas are way up right now.
They're up. And so, but with them being up, sometimes we fall into a trap where someone else knows what's best for the person who is needing help. And it's like, no, ask the person who actually needs the help what they need instead of prescribing and then saying, oh, I fixed it. And so
someone thinks they know. They don't know.
No, but no idea what it's like to walk in my shoes, your shoes, anyone who look like us. So at making sure to ask that question, and theater offers that opportunity for people to have conversations afterwards. And this virtual world is so different because usually there's like a talk back or this opportunity to like meet the author afterwards and have a conversation with them or the playwright. And that piece right now is missing. And so that's what I want to be able to build with folks so that we can have the conversations that people are wondering about, but don't necessarily have the platform to talk about or feel safe in having that conversation.
So I see in your near future, I see you leading these conversations. I see you, the stories we carry. I see you revealing and highlighting those stories in a sense. So those 14 pieces, who's to say that you don't do a 14-part series, just doing a breakdown, bringing more attention right back to inheritance in a way that we, to the point of like your description, there was something I wanted to say about that, with that nagging feeling of missing something she didn't know existed. That is so profound. That could be dissected in so many different ways for so many different women in a way that we all come together as a collective.
Yes.
And build something that has never been, witnessed by man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
On a global scale.
Yeah.
So you're opening up a huge can of worms, and I think it's going to take for you to take a lead, in a sense, to stay positioned for more, just to be further exposed, so more people can, when we think about ads and marketing and stuff like that, like fortunately you're on a major platform, right? Mm-hmm. But I think there are just so many missed opportunities right now. So it's like, even though we're in the fringe right now, I think the stories that we carry are going to be carried for quite some time, led by none other than Heather Byrd Roberts. And that is something I personally and selfishly look forward to, because so many women need you. Like, we need you to carry this torch and pass it and just give us different perspective through your lens, literally and figuratively speaking. And I'm really ecstatic to see you continue to soar or keep flying, as your shirt implies. So I mean, as you can see, I'm like super enthusiastic about. I didn't want to see it before speaking with you because I feel like I would have brought some biases to the table, and maybe we can have a separate conversation after the fact because I know I'm going to be mind blown. Just knowing you is a mind blowing experience. So to get a taste of that side of you is going to be an experience, to say the least.
Thank you so much. I specifically love watching you have a reaction to like the trailer and the description and how powerful that is and how much it speaks to so many different people. Like it's like reassuring that I'm on the right path and I'm doing the work that is needed. Because sometimes you have, just as an artist, you have an idea and you're like, is this going to translate well? Is this going to work in the way in which you want to? And like seeing the reactions of folks who are who have watched the show and who are very interested and just really want to support, but then aren't ready for what they receive. And they're like, oh, let's talk. I didn't know I had this within myself.
Yeah.
It's like writing. It's like some people don't believe that they're writers or can be writers. I'm like, everyone has the capacity to be a writer, to be an artist. We all have artists, an artist child within us. It's just how it manifests itself. So
speaking of writers, I mean, I know we're focusing on inheritance, the stories we carry, but you carry a lot of stories as a writer, as a writing instructor. Can you give just a little insight on how you're able to creatively assist and support, people who do, get stuck and don't believe that they're capable of doing something that actually they just need a little guidance? How do you support that as a writer?
It all starts with the entry point. I know for myself, I hated poetry when I was in sixth grade and below. I couldn't stand it. And I realized it's because I did not see myself within the stories that were being told. It was, Shakespeare or people talking about dead trees in the middle.
Yeah.
If I had gotten a poem talking about Harold's chicken, Nate Marshall has a piece that was like it's called Harold's, and I'm like, if I would have saw a poem about Harold's, I would have jumped at the opportunity. So it's all about how do you see yourself reflected in the material that's being taught. And so once people are able to have that entry point, it's also about relieving the tension around being perfect in writing. A lot of people think that when you write your first draft, it has to be perfect. And so I used to do it myself, where there's so much anxiety around like, oh, this has to be great. And then because there's so much there, you shut down. So instead of shutting down, what is it like to just get out what's in your head on the page and then really embracing editing and the process of editing and really digging deeper into what you're saying and how can you apply extended metaphors to that. It takes work, but it's like producing. It's like giving birth. It's like you go through this process and it can be painful, but when you're at the end of it, here's this beautiful product that you put so much work and time into. And so those two things are the really big things, like making sure that there is representation and a reflection in the material that's being shared, and then like that inspiration, and then knocking down those walls of trying to be perfect. Like there is no such thing as perfect. There is the best of where you are now, and really embracing that, and then being open to the editing process.
Which leads me to something very important, very significant, to say the least. Support. Like I see behind you, you have a plethora of resources. Like you are clearly an avid reader. But where was your support system? Like remember how you said you were exposed to poetry, but that could have just been a moment. That could have been a moment, and it was a spark, and then it flickered. But who or what was that vehicle for you to continue to be where you are right now, confidently and competently communicating these sorts of stories that we collectively and separately as women share? So let's go back like a little bit. What did that look like for you leading up to now?
That's such a great question. It all started with my mother and my grandmother. One of the things that I realized about my mother, first of all, anybody who know Mama Byrd knows that she is the number one supporter. She is everywhere. I can name one thing that she has not shown up to in my entire life. And that's only because that was something that happened out of her own control. But at no point did my mother tell me I can't do what I am doing. Or how are you going to pay the bills with being an artist? Or why are you, like, she never questioned my path. And a lot of folks are, even though the person that's saying that they don't mean harm, it puts it in someone's head. So at no point did my mother say any of those things, and has supported me wholeheartedly since the beginning. And even though she might not know exactly what I'm doing all the time.
You know what? I want to add to that. I jokingly yet seriously say from time to time, I'm glad that people never told me what I can't do.
Yes.
Because I would have proven them wrong. Like
it's my favorite thing to do.
Yeah, like when it comes to support, even though, to your point, people not really knowing what I do, it's just one of those things that clearly she does it well because she's still doing it.
Yes.
And sustaining myself, rightfully so. But you mentioned your granny as well. I know that, at the beginning of you mentioning her, I felt the emotions that came out of you a little bit. And then you focused on your mom for a second. I'm going to put you in the hot seat. Like the significance of, so one thing you and I have, I think if we had like crossroads, you still have your mom. I don't have my mom, but I still have my grandmother. So I understand that. And she's my best friend, 83 years old. We talk every other day. That's my bestie. So you gave us insight on the significance of a mother, which is something I will never be able to fully understand, losing my mom as early as, 9 years old. So with granny's another level, like what is that? Or better yet, is there something in this project inspired by her?
It is. Yeah. So my grandmother was a writer as well. And so she had a couple pieces that have been published, and she has framed, and I have the frames at my house. And her and Gwendolyn Brooks used to be friends, and they would like exchange letters. And my grandmother was so ballsy, she would critique Gwendolyn Brooks. Like my grandmother, you know how grandmas are. They're like, they used to live in the same building and be pen pals. And so I was exposed to reading and writing very early. And my grandmother used to like hand me the funny pages and have me read every day, or like read the newspaper or write letters. And so I remember not publishing. I still need maybe get that published. I wrote a book that won the young authors competition when we were like in grammar school.
Yeah.
And I love doing that. And so my grandmother was big on education, big on writing, reading. And so her influence on me is something else. I actually don't have the necklace on me. I can't even believe I don't have it right now. It's in the other room. But I actually wear a pendant around my neck that has my grandmother's ashes in it. And it's one of the things that keeps me grounded. And I've been wearing that for the past 10 years. There are two pieces within this show that explains the relationship that my grandmother had. And so she does appear in this show. And I am also in the process of writing my second book that is going to be and dedicated to the maternal figures in my life. So like half of it will be about my mother, half of it will be about my grandmother and how they influenced me and the things that they went through. And so I'm working on that now. And there are just so many stories. There are so many things where I wish I could ask her now that I didn't think about asking when I was a kid, because I was still a kid. But yeah, she wrote, kept journals. I want to fuse some of her pieces in with my pieces.
So on a very personal note, if those weren't influential forces or factors in your life, who do you think you would be today? Like, what do you think you would be doing if you hadn't been exposed to what you were exposed to creatively as a writer and creator?
That's a really good question. I do maybe a teacher. I think I still would have been an educator because my mother is an educator, has been for 40 years and retired about 5 years ago, and still teaches. And so my grandmother was a nurse. My mother was a teacher, still is. She still teaches my nephew on a daily basis. Like, it's the most adorable thing. So something with people. I still think I would have been an educator.
Something with people. Love it.
People. Like, I do enjoy being around the right type of people, the right kind of person, like people who learn, people who are curious, like that.
Forward thinking, forward
thinking, yes. Yeah. Inquisitive, like all of that. So it might have been a teacher, I think. A nurse thing.
So what I love about this conversation is initially we wanted to come together with kind of like a flow, but we agreed that we just flow so naturally, like water. So I have freely learned a lot of things that we've never discussed before. And we've discussed a lot in the past year of knowing one another. So let's maybe just dive into those hard facts of, how someone can get these tickets, because I am purchasing 10 to either give away or just to support you. So I am putting that out there to your hummingbirds that you guys can contact me. If for whatever reason you're not in a position to get a ticket, I will. I'm sponsoring a few. I'm personally watching tonight as well. And I know there are a lot of different ways for individuals to support you on the platform that this will, that the project is running on. There are different ways for them to donate, purchase tickets up until the deadline of approximately 48 hours from now.
Yeah.
So what does that look like? How can we support you, Heather, and let us know in every way possible?
Yes, for sure. So I should have removed that a long time ago. So tickets can be found at kcfringe.org. And when you go to their website, you will be able to find a plethora of shows that are going on right now. I would definitely encourage you all to check out as much as you possibly can. I am including tickets are available here. So I'm including the direct link to the show. As Serita mentioned, tickets are $5. It's a $5 holla. Like
it is.
You get a 39-minute show. And with that, there is the opportunity for you all to watch the show whenever you'd like. So I think that's the beauty of this particular festival. You buy a ticket and you are able to watch the show up until 11:59 Central Standard Time on July 26th. So if you're like, well, when are the show times? This is when you get comfortable, have your popcorn, have your wine, sit on your couch, whenever that time is for you, after the kids go to bed, if it's early in the morning, this works for you all. And 40 minutes actually goes by extremely quickly. So you have the opportunity to purchase tickets there.
I was just sharing the 411. I was
like, making sure people are commenting. I do have a question that I want to answer for someone that actually posed for us.
Yeah. What you got?
But before we get to that, so for folks that are wondering, you can also donate through that ticket link. So you can donate $5 or $10. There is an 80-20 split in my favor, which is awesome. And then when you actually watch the show, if you want to tip after the show, there is the opportunity to do that through Cash App and Venmo, and my information is in that box too. So I'm so glad to share this project with so many people. Like, this would have been just a Kansas City thing. It is now opened up to it to be international, and so this is extremely exciting.
And I think that's the part I'm most excited about from the perspective of like your overall personal brand. Like now it's like potential for maximum exposure. You can repurpose this. You can do a virtual tour. It's so many. It's just so.
My next, project. People who are looking for opportunities to have shows and conversations on campuses across the country. Like, this is a great opportunity, whether I can be in person or be virtual, depending on how folks are returning back to the school year. If you're looking for programming, this is a great way to build that programming. So if you're looking for a sneak peek of what things could look like viewing the show for $5, you're not going to get this offer again. So you might have to hop up on it.
So I know you're going to lead into that question, but I think I have, it might be my final question for you, but this is more catered to you in particular. So we know that we can find the tickets on kcfringe.org, but how can we support you beyond this after we get exposed to this amazing experience? You know, you told us about the first book, you have products, we have opportunities to have a sneak peek into other experiences you create. Where does one start to get themselves just linked to you socially, digitally, etc.? What is that?
So social media on Instagram and Facebook are the two platforms that I use the most. You could definitely find me at Bluebird's World, and that's BLUBYRDS World, WORLD. That's on both Facebook and Instagram. And then also check out my website. Like, I have amazing things on my website. This show, I have another show that I am prepping for as the national headliner for the St. Louis Fringe Festival with my partner in rhyme, Greg Jeffois.
You are killing it, killing it.
I also have books for sale. So a lot of the pieces that come out of Inheritance are from my book, Mahogany, A Love Letter to Black. And so being able to purchase that book for just $10 would be an amazing gift for someone or for yourself, and like us being able to have conversations about that. I'm a book club. If you have a book club that you're running, have t-shirts for sale as well. It says "Keep Flying" on the front, and then my logo Byrd on the back. And then I also have these pins that are I think I took mine off my book bag. I did. But the button says, "Your skin is the most beautiful picture I've ever known." And that's just one of those reminders that I think we need on a daily basis that is super important. So
I feel like that should be on a canvas too. I like that.
And I'm working on some new things with particular films from this show, having a limited edition of some of them framed, and you'll see. It's coming up.
Well, I mean, I'm here for the long haul, so I'm just saying, I always like to share, for people who are tuned in so they can know what I already know. As a future hummingbird, and when I say a future hummingbird, I say it in the sense of being more so guided by you in the near future. I totally want to collaborate with you in the future to maybe do a workshop together. You and because I didn't even say, my brand is a Success Junkie, which is an achievement lifestyle brand. And I would love to just integrate our communities in a way that we both like to educate, so just bringing them together in a way that they see outside of the box. Heather and I quite often talk about how 3% of people who ever want to get to publishing, for a book ever actually do it. We want to raise those numbers, especially in our community. Yeah. So, or even you're a visual artist, you're a thespian. Like, is there any future of you getting back on the stage soon? Like with groups, is that happening? Is that on the agenda in the next?
Theater is going to look a lot different now that we are in this new shift in our lives, in this world. And so I would love to find ways to collaborate with more folks as I'm branching out. I am meeting musicians. I am meeting painters. Like, let's go. I love community. I love building with folks. I love collaborating, brainstorming, even if it's not us working together on a project. If you just need to sit down and talk through things.
I'm here for it. Yes. I know you said that there was a question or
there was a question from my girl Angie. That was asked was, how do you find strength in the current political climate to continue writing about and speaking about your truths? Do you have any advice for youth or others who are struggling to speak up about their identities? Such a good question, Angie. Angie's one of my former students when I used to work at a college, and now is one of the most amazing coaches for Louder Than a Bomb that I could have in our circle. So thank you for that question. It's so great. I I'm going to start from the bottom. So do you have any advice for youth struggling to speak up about their identities? I love that question. And I think the most important thing to do is find your tribe. Find the folks that are in your circle that you can identify with and begin having conversations with them, and then being able to branch out. I'm a huge advocate of journaling and being able to like release some of that stuff that's within yourself onto paper, and then finding ways to have outlets in there. Finding ways to create brave space. And I say brave space instead of safe space because people are forever growing and need a place to be able to grow. And so not all spaces are safe, but to be brave and to be willing to learn is very, very important. In terms of like, how do I find strength with everything that is going on to continue writing and speaking up? I feel like it's always the time to do it. I've been doing this work, whether speaking up in the artistic world or speaking up within the work that I do within diversity and inclusion, which have like they intersect with one another. I'm forever doing this work. And so it's not so much of like now is the time to do it because it makes sense, because it's always the time to have these conversations and folks are always growing. But I think what's most important in terms of finding strength is also finding self-care is so overused right now, but it is true. Like, what are ways to help rejuvenate yourself? Like, I'm currently reading a book that is in the mermaid. It's a young adult book, but it's like about mermaids. And that's my way to be able to escape, monitoring how much I'm on social media. I love water. So how can I be around big bodies of water or just taking a bath or having a dance party? I'm like, if you can't do anything else, turn on some music and bounce around your house like there is no one watching, even if there is. And if they are, ask them to come join you. Like,
I'm just saying.
able to release all of that energy and just be kind to yourself as you're doing this work, because that's really, really important. That helps us, that sets me up to have the strength. Because don't get me wrong, there are times where I'm like, not today, and that is okay.
I like to add to that the part about the strength. Be okay with, just finding vulnerability, like in your own time, like that brave space that you're speaking of. I realized for a long time I had an issue, with being vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
So in being strong, you have to allow yourself to be weak. And even if that's in private, even if that's tears in the shower, you got to let it out. When you internalize, it reflects somewhere else on somebody else, at times that are probably least appropriate. Mm-hmm. And you regret it, down the road. I guess I'm testing to the point of the microaggressions and things of that nature. Yeah. I was on a panel last week with all African Americans in corporate, and we talked about talking about being Black in corporate America. Yeah. And if you know, you know. But as far as what was the other thing? There was strength, the part about being strength, but advice for
youth or others who are struggling to speak up about their identities.
Oh yeah, so take a lead. There are far too many followers. We need more leaders. So I think in taking a lead, it requires you to take a stance. And when you take a stance, that's how that tribe is developed. Mm-hmm. So within anything and everything, we all have these differentiating forces and factors about ourselves that we can make like micro tribes and micro communities in a way that we can collaborate based on our differences. You got introverts, you got extroverts, you got, so much emphasis on, our queer communities and things like that. Like, in that vulnerability, let's just be honest without judgment and just take things as it is and learn together as a collective. I think we would get so much further if more people step up instead of stepping back and looking for a line to get in. Create your own line, and your tribe will follow. Yeah. So that includes defining identity, creating a voice, and fostering community with like-minded individuals. So sometimes it just takes that one.
Yeah.
Most people want to follow So get uncomfortable and make a decision to be the leader. And I think that will be a game changer for a lot of
and make sure to have someone by your side while you're doing that. Because I know, as someone who used to work at a PWI and be in the middle of Iowa, like sometimes that road can be lonely. Making sure you have 1 or 2 people that you can always call when that microaggression takes place, instead of, you know, maybe taking care of it in that moment, calling that friend. Like, I just need to vent. I just need to process. Like, what is that?
Wow. Allies.
It makes a huge difference.
So strategic personal or interpersonal alliances will be key as well, because I'm a fellow PWI alum as well. So, and for those of you who don't know, that's a private white institution, so not necessarily an HBCU. So the experience is different, but it makes us who we are, and I think it keeps us even more open-minded and diverse with our ideals and views, and how we relate, you know, to others from different environments and backgrounds. So excellent question, Angie.
Bro, someone commented like, Heather, you would have been an amazing teacher.
I concur.
It's all to my mama. It's pretty dope. It's pretty dope.
Oh my goodness. So, you know, we can do this all day long. Okay. Is there anything else, Heather, you want to just put out there to everyone in advance? You know, just a recap of we got 48 hours left to support this. I think this final stretch could be really huge for you. So let's put a goal, you know, out there, and we would really appreciate for you all to support somehow, some way, as simple as just sharing this live. Let someone else see it, you know. But Heather, I totally want your insight as we get ready to come to a close, because this has been awesome. As we knew it was going to be great, but this was awesome.
Thank you so much for joining me. This has been really great. We have until 11:59 on July 26th to be able to join us in this conversation. I am working really hard, as I mentioned, to make sure that there are going to be spaces for us to be able to debrief and really like build community around the themes that are within Inheritance, the Stories We Carry. So for folks who have seen the show, reach out to me. Please let me know that you have seen the show. For folks who feel comfortable sharing a review about the show on my Facebook page, that is huge, because once folks start hearing about it, it'll start catching traction, and these conversations can start getting bigger and bigger, and that's really making a change. Buy a ticket for you, buy a ticket for a friend. You all can debrief together. I am super thankful to be in this position to be able to do this. Definitely shout out to all of the folks that have been able to support me up until this point. Like, honestly, I have good cries at night because I realize how blessed I am to be in the space that I am, and for folks to just be right there by my side cheering me on. So.
Yay. Well, I'm looking forward to watching tonight. As I've already expressed. Another thing to note, the way that the platform is for you to, you know, view Inheritance, the Stories We Carry. Once you purchase your ticket, you can view between now and Sunday. So just because you don't plan on watching it today, you can get your ticket today, and you can watch it between today and Sunday at 11:59 p.m. So as
long as you are in there by 11 p.m. on the 26th, you're good. Like, you got 30 minutes to squeeze in there before it ends.
But I'm inviting others to join me in supporting my girl Heather. Heather has put so much effort into just making you guys aware of this. Like, producing it is one thing, creating, you know, this project is one thing, but pushing it, you know, we're not the super celebrities and things like that. We're not the people with 1 million followers and we just say, hey, I got a thing, and people just come out of the woodwork. Like, this takes work, and you guys are getting, you know, those humble beginnings. Like, and this isn't a humble beginning, because I mean, she's gonna be humble, but I'm a kind of, I'm gonna just hype it up a little bit to let you all know that this is an award-winning piece. She has already been recognized for how dope she is. So let me say it, because she won't.
I'm working on it.
So if I can reach over to the look, this is in mirrored. Like if I could just tap her, like
There you go. Here's a little shoulder.
I'm just saying, just dust the shoulders out. But no, you all are. I haven't had the pleasure. I will have the pleasure in a few hours, but I have been behind the scenes, just kind of supporting her getting to this point of making this announcement, and I just know you're in for a treat because we have talked this through. She has shared her stories with me. Just the fact that the detail that she places on the African diaspora is that's a conversation in itself. So just expect so much more from Heather Byrd Roberts. And I'm just happy to share this space with you if you guys haven't realized that already. But Heather, I'm so proud of you. And even that is an understatement. I just look forward to just riding this wave with you as a fellow mermaid. You mentioned mermaid references a few times in this stream today, and I think I want like a little mermaid tattoo somewhere. So I get it. We got a little spirit animal energy going on. But please support this project. This is huge. Like this is really, really big, and the success of this project means that she'll get more opportunities like this on a grander scale when we can come back outside. So that is my TED Talk. Heather, thanks again, for this opportunity. And I am getting my tickets now. So I'm getting my tickets at the end of this stream. So I'm getting 10. Let me say that again. So if anyone, for whatever reason, $5 right now is sometimes that's just not the situation that we're in right now. Things are tight. I am donating 9, so 1 is mine. But I'm donating 9 if anyone wants them. So send me a DM. Once again, my name is Serita Love. And yeah, that's it. That's all I've got.
We're
Successfully yours. Look.
Thank you all so much for joining us with another Byrd Talk. Until the next time, y'all keep flying.
Peace.